Key Wall Street indices closed mixed on Friday as well as for the week as high inflation and fears of further rate hikes weigh on sentiment. Investors will now closely watch the Fed minutes due on Wednesday. Asian markets fall in early trade, but the SGX Nifty indicates a positive start for the Indian market. Oil prices are largely steady after slipping over 2% on Friday on worries of future rate hikes hitting demand. Brent crude trades at around $83 a barrel on signs of oversupply and rising crude inventories in the United States, which also weigh on the short-term demand outlook. The GST Council clears spending compensation dues of nearly 17,000 crore rupees, also approves the release of a further 16,500 crore rupees to 6 states. Rates on pre-packed liquid jaggery and pencil sharpeners have been cut, while the decision on appellate tribunals is postponed to consider suggestions from states. The Supreme Court, calling for transparency in the Adani case, refuses to accept the government's report submitted in a sealed envelope. The FTSE, meanwhile, says that it intends to proceed with scheduled float changes for Adani Group stocks in its quarterly index review. And NMDC Steel will list on the exchanges today after being spun off from parent NMDC in October. The 3 million ton per annum plant is not yet fully commissioned but holds a book value of around 17,000 crore rupees. Hi guys, good morning and welcome to Power Breakfast. I'm Pavitra Parekh. Those are the top headlines that we're looking at, and it is the start of a brand new week. So we clearly have lots to, talk about to catch up on the weekend action. But let's start up with, what's going on in the global markets. We are getting a pretty mixed start as far as Asian markets go. A lot of them have recovered actually. You have Hang Seng, which is down around 0.4%, but the Taiwanese markets has, they've come back a little bit, so around 0.2% higher there. The Nikkei is absolutely flat right now, just a minor uptick over there. You also have Shanghai and Kospi, which are opening with some gains. So Shanghai is up around 0.4%, Kospi seeing gains of around 0.2%. So pretty mixed as far as Asia goes. But let's bring the SGX Nifty up for you because that is indicating a bit of a positive start for our own markets. 36 points higher is what we have for ourselves on the SGX Nifty. So maybe a start in the green, but let's see how the session pans out. Speaking of global markets, in the US, the Wall Street also ended Friday's session as well as the week gone by on quite a mixed note. So the Dow closed with a 129-point gain on Friday. The S&P 500 finished around 0.3% lower, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq was also down around 0.5%. But for the week, the Dow ended with a little bit of a cut, so it was down 0.1%. It's actually the third negative week that we've seen for Dow in a row. The S&P 500 shed around 0.3%. This is for the week, and the Nasdaq also closed the week around 0.5% higher. So that is the one which did relatively better. That's what's happening across the global markets. But staying with Wall Street, some more news that we have to bring you. Another tech company that has followed Twitter's suit now is Meta. So the company is rolling out a new paid verification subscription service for Instagram as well as for Facebook users. So this is for $11.99 a month on the web and $14.99 a month on the iOS. The users on Meta's Instagram and Facebook platforms will now be able to submit their government ID and get verified, so that is something important that we're tracking. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg also wrote in a post that the feature was about increasing authenticity and security across services. And this, of course, like I pointed out, follows what Twitter came out with earlier as well. But on that note now, let's also listen. All right, that is some important global opinion that we're tracking, but let's now talk about all of the cues that you should have on your radar as we get into this fresh trading week. Our research team is here with the trade setup as well as the individual names that you should watch for in today's trading session. We have Ekta, Mangalam as well as Surbi joining us with the trade setup. Guys, a very good morning to all of you. And Ekta, let me come to you first. We did get a little bit of a weak close on Friday, but take us through everything as we get into this fresh week.
Thanks for that. Well, yes, the markets did close in the red on Friday. The Nifty was down over 90 odd points. We had the Nifty Bank, which underperformed, so that seems to stand out. The financials underperforming. So the Nifty Bank fell around 500 odd points. FIIs net sold around 624 odd crores, so they have started reselling. Let's see what the trend would be because they did buy for 3 consecutive sessions just recently. Now, DIIs net sold around 85 odd crores. The Sensex and the Nifty, however, on a week-to-date basis, last week recorded third straight week of gains, which is definitely a positive, something to keep on our radar, that on a week-to-date basis, the indices were up around 0.5% each. Now, in terms of what's taken place overnight, global cues stand tall in terms of one of the top cues to watch out for. So the US markets, the Dow closed more than 100 points higher on Friday. We did have some Fed Reserve governors indicate that, the inflation target of around 2% for the US could be something which could still be a long way off. So there was some more hawkish commentary which came in. Asia is largely mixed at this point in time. We do have the FOMC Fed minutes which will be out this week, so something to watch out for, and the SGX, which is indicating a little bit of a positive start. Just watch out for oil prices because they settle low on Fed concerns, ample supply. Brent is currently at around $83 per barrel. It was down $2 per barrel. And lastly, watch out for the financials continuing their underperformance, because last week we had the PSU banks which were lower in trade as well, not only the Nifty bank. Now, stock-specific action would be in focus because the FTSE has announced a semi-annual index review, and separately we do have NSE, which has indicated that there was a semi-annual index review, but the changes were not made in the Nifty but only in the Nifty Next 50, which would be with effect March 31st. So stock specific action on one end, and in terms of the other queue, it would be global.
All right, so those are all of the cues that we are going to watch for. Ekta, thanks a lot for that. But let's now also talk about the cues that we should watch from the futures and options space. And Mangalam is here with exactly that. Mangalam.
Well, good morning. On Friday, we did see some weakness on our markets, but it was a big range that we traded in, almost 150 points, or nearly 2%. So the highs on the index for the Nifty was 18,034, whereas the low was 17,885. On the cash market front, we saw a sell-off from both the FIIs as well as the DIIs, but it is the Feb series expiry week, so we'll be monitoring all the F&O flows much more closely. And in that, the big cue that we got during the day itself on Friday was the compression that we saw in the Nifty future premium, which was close to around 6.8 points, and that compressed from around 27 odd points. So that was telling you that we saw a fair amount of sell-off by the FIIs in index futures, almost 1,100 crore worth sell-off. What does that mean in terms of individual things that they did? They added close to 10,000 short contracts and also unwound around 1,500 long contracts. So there you have it, close to around 1,100 crore worth selling in index futures. The long contracts for the FII is now from 27-28%, which were a couple of trading sessions ago, has now come down to around 23 odd percent. But the one data point that really stood out at the start of expiry week itself was the call selling that the FIIs did. Almost 2.2 lakh shares of calls sold by the FIIs, and this compares with around 91,000 puts, so nearly twice the number of calls sold. That's telling you that levels higher, upwards of 18,050, could see a fair amount of resistance, and that's exactly what the options denoted as well. 18,000 call, almost 63 lakh shares added for a premium of 73 odd rupees, telling you levels upwards of 18,050 to 1875 will face some sort of congestion. 18,100 call also saw a fair amount of writing. However, while the range for the market has moved higher, we've seen supports move higher as well. The 20-day moving average, which was an erstwhile resistance, now is a support, and that's why the 17,900 put writers are extremely active for a premium of 73 odd rupees. So the 20-day average of 17,848 on the Nifty is extremely important. However, the Nifty bank, which is underperforming, broke below the 20-day moving average on Friday, and now that will be a bit of a resistance on the way up.
All right, so let's see how those levels hold. Mangalam, thanks a lot for getting us all of those cues. We also have Surbhi, who is standing by to take us through all of the individual stock-specific action that came through and that we should watch for. Surbhi?
Good morning. A few stocks that are on my radar this morning. The first one is Samvardhan Motherson, where the company is going to acquire 100% stake in a German company, SAS Automotive Tech. The company is a cockpit module integrator with an enterprise value of 540 million euros. The transaction is expected to be completed in Q2 of FY24. Next is Cipla, where the company's US FDA has issued 8 observations in Form 483 for Pitambur manufacturing facility. HUL, the company has signed an agreement for sale of its brands Annapurna and Captain Cook to Uma Global Foods and Uma Consumer Products for 60 odd crores. KEC International, the company wins orders worth 3,000 odd crores. Dilip Bitcoin receives a letter of acceptance from Madhya Pradesh Jal Nigam Authority worth 1,947 crores. And lastly, CRISIL, where the company has announced its Q4 results, where the revenue is up 16% on a year-on-year basis and the profit before tax is up 15% at 207 crores.
All right, Surabhi, thanks a lot for getting us all of those individual stocks. In addition, like we were pointing out, the entire Adani group of stocks will also be in focus, so do watch for that. But with that, it's time for our first short break on the show. On the other side, we get you details from Saturday's GST meeting, so stay tuned for that. Hey guys, welcome back. You're still tuned into Power Breakfast. Some important news. The 49th GST Council meeting was held on Saturday and it saw several major announcements coming through. So the GST Council has cleared 16,982 crores worth, releasing compensation owed to states up to the end of the June end period. Further, the Council has also reduced GST rates on liquid jaggery, on pencil sharpeners, as well as certain tracking devices. The Council also accepted the GOM's report on setting up an appellate tribunal with a change in language. In fact, let's listen into what Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman had to say on the compensation cess for states.
The entire due on the pending balance of the GST compensation will be cleared. As of May 31st, we had cleared all the dues. There was something left in the name of dues for June. Even that is getting cleared. In other words, the entire pending balance of the GST compensation, which is to a total of 16,982 crores for June, that is, will be cleared. Centre would also clear the admissible final GST compensation to those states who have provided the revenue figures as certified by the Accountant General of the states, and that amounts to 16,524 crores. 16,524 crores. Percentage of millet in the mixed food, ready food that is being discussed about, whether it should be 70%, whether it should be 50% of millet and other things are rest of it. There was some discussion, but nothing was arrived at. We agreed to look at it again.
All right, that is the Finance Minister on the GST meeting that we had on Saturday. But with that, let's move on and also bring you some updates on the Adani Group. The FTSE says it intends to proceed with the scheduled changes in the float of Adani Group stocks as part of its quarterly update of indices. So the FTSE has also noted that trading in securities of the Adani Group is restricted on account of daily price limits being hit, and it says that it will be reviewing the situation on a case-by-case basis. Any further updates will be announced in advance in line with the index policies. That is an important piece of news that we had to bring you on the Adani Group of stocks. But something else that we are tracking is that NMDC Steel will be listing on the exchanges today after being spun off from NMDC in October. So Nigel is here to bring us up to speed with all of that. Nigel?
Well, morning. Yeah, that's right. NMDC Steel plant shares, which was spun off in October, that's going to get relisted today. So that part of the business was spun off, and on that day itself, the adjustment was close to around 26 to 27 rupees odd. So you're expecting a listing in that vicinity. To give you a couple of details on the steel plant, well, it's a 3 million ton steel plant. The problem is it's not yet commissioned. That means it's not yet generating any money. So how do you value this asset then? You value it on the net worth. The net worth is close to around 17,000 crores odd, and you'll have to give it a multiple. Remember, if it was an already functioning steel plant, then you would be able to value it on an EV upon EBITDA basis. But here there's no EBITDA as yes. So that's why you'll have to value it on the net worth. Now, the debt in the books is close to around 3,400 crores. So just need to keep that in mind. You need to get an updated number, but that's a rough number that we're looking at. So what does it list at? Well, going by the net worth and giving it a multiple of around 0.4, and on the higher end, you give it a 0.6 multiple. It could be in that vicinity of around 25 to around 35 rupees, or I think it should be in that vicinity of around 25 to around 28 rupees, very, very roughly. The key trigger going ahead is the government has been talking about divesting this unit. So what is the interest and how does it get commissioned? Ramping up obviously is going to be very, very important. And finally, the other listed company, that's NMDC, they're likely to acquire 10% stake in the steel plant. But, the other details have not yet been finalized. So at around 10 a.m., the new, the new shares will get listed. That's NMDC Steel Plant. Let's see how it goes. But I think 26, 28 rupees odd should be the rough range. Back to you.
All right, Nigel, thanks a lot for bringing us all of the details on NMDC Steel. But with that, we have to get into a short break here. On the other side, we're going to shift focus from equities and talk all about the commodity markets. There's been a slip in oil prices. We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. Welcome back. You're still tuned into Power Breakfast, and let's now talk about the commodity space as promised. Manisha joins us with an update. Manisha, good morning. Seems like the energy prices are definitely coming off a bit.
Oh, they are, Pavitra. I guess 5% of decline in the previous week, and this is as the markets do believe that the hotter than expected U.S. data is fanning concerns of higher rate hikes from the U.S. Also, when you look at the U.S. crude inventories at 849 million barrels, it is the highest since October 2022, and the U.S. is set to release further 26 million barrels from SPR. The only reason that we are still trading above $80 a barrel for the Brent is because IEA and OPEC both have raised forecasts for demand growth in 2023. But take a look at the metal prices, and we put in a week in the previous one. You have the copper prices down by a percentage point, and other metals like aluminum, zinc, nickel, etc. fell anywhere between 2 to 4%. Gold prices also fell 2% in the previous week. It's a third week of losses for this one as well. And with that, now gold prices are trading at a 6-week lows. But for this week, markets will watch out for the U.S. Fed speeches. Also, the U.S. Fed policy meeting minutes is something that the street is awaiting.
All right, Manisha, thanks a lot for getting us that update on the commodity markets. With that, we are going to wind down on the show, but a quick look at the Asian markets before we do that. A lot of them have actually moved into the green now. The only Asian market which is in the red is the Straits, so that's seeing cuts of around 0.3%. But for everything else, it's doing quite well. Hong Kong markets up around 25 points, so it's moved back into the green. What's doing the best is the Shanghai markets up 0.6%. The SGX Nifty also indicating, a positive start for our own markets. It has come off a tad, but 25 points higher there. Thanks a lot for tuning into Power Breakfast. Bazaar Morning Call comes up next.